I have been waiting since season 5 to absolutely slam dunk the main character of the Dragon Prince, and now that season 7 has concluded and the mystery of Erebos is solved, it is finally time to just say it how it is. Callum is a soy boy. And I don't mean this in a,
oh, look at me, I have such a deep voice, I'm so macho, haha, attacking another bloke's masculinity.
No, I think he is genuinely a weak beta male and a poor example for boys to look up to. For the record, there's nothing wrong with having personality traits against that of the traditional masculine norm. Rather that I think there is a problem when you're a sissy your entire life, which is what I believe Callum fits throughout this second arc. For the love of God, I'm making this video because Callum reminds me of my 18-year-old self, and I hate that fucker. But that dweeb needed to exist so that this man in front of you can talk amongst you guys. In the same way that this man is a required evil so that my 30-year-old self can be a successful, loving father of 2. Inshallah. Now, without further ado, I'm going to skip past seasons 1 to 3 because A, there's not a lot of evidence to suggest Callum is soy. B, the evidence used in this video probably wouldn't help it that much. And C, it can very easily be countered by saying, well, he's 16, what more do you expect? Let's get straight to Through the Moon. Lou Jane asks Callum and Rayla how they ended up being in a relationship, and Callum starts waffling about the Midnight Desert. Rayla is embarrassed and asks him to stop, which, right off the bat, plants a few seeds of soy. Most healthy relationships, old couples or young couples, are very fond of the story on how they met, right? Even if it is an embarrassing story, there's a wholesome moment to be had there. Rayla is a walking red flag by being embarrassed by this story. But this isn't a fuck you Rayla video, even though it will seem like it a bit later. Callum is the one to blame here. He immediately drops the subject and changes into something else, which is like, okay, fine, I get that you're trying to make your girl comfortable, but are you automatically just backing down to avoid conflict? I know this point seems like I'm reaching, but I'm telling you this for free. It will add up throughout this video, because this is a long-ass video, believe that. Later on Through the Moon, Callum finds Rayla by the Moon Nexus. Rayla, who has been acting very dismissive and passive for the past 10 pages, finally opens up to him about her concerns that Viren may be alive, and the fact that everyone is moving on too quickly after season 3. Now, fair play to Callum, he actually tries to chime in and show some empathy, but Rayla just completely shuts him down and they start arguing, with the argument concluding with Callum reminding Rayla that Runan killed Harrow. And what does Rayla do? Immediately storm off. Like, how is that healthy in the slightest? Like, they talk to each other next day, no resolution, no apology, nothing. And I know what you're going to say.
Oh, but Rayla's a woman, you know what women are like. They say stuff in the heat of the moment.
But, bruv, in context and adding up this entire video, it comes very clear that even from early days, Callum is not the one wearing the pants in the relationship. Callum is right in this situation and Rayla is a hypocrite. Callum took the time to understand where Rayla was coming from. Also reminded her that, in fact, Callum is suffering from the end of season 3, remember? But rather than, holding his ground, he reverts back to that beta mentality of, how could I say something so awful to hurt my girl? Where? And I'm not done with Through the Moon, it gets even worse. At the end of the comic, Rayla reveals that she saw Viren in a cocoon, so there's a 99% chance that Viren is alive. Callum trusts this judgment this time around, and offers to go with her on a quest to go look for him. Now, I know you're going to say, now he's going to talk about the 2-year time skip. Patience, my friend. This is soy. You want to know why? Callum, you have a purpose. Callum is the step prince of Katalis. His younger brother is the king of Katalis, who, by the way, is 11 at the time of Through the Moon. He would seriously need Callum's help, especially in this tough time of a post-war season 3, to get the human kingdoms back on track, right? But no, Callum is willing to throw all those responsibilities away like a little bitch to please Rayla. Like, he's willing to throw away his royal titles, which is a technicality because he's not royal blood, he's a half prince, right? All for what? Going on this quest with Rayla for God knows how long, which may be a waste of time because there's no way of our characters knowing for certain that Viren is alive. Jesus Christ, no wonder that bitch fucking left you for 2 years. Season 4 marks the beginning of the end because of the time skip in terms of Raylan and Callum's development as a character. Rebirthday is one of the biggest waste of time episodes I have ever watched in my entire life, but there's one part that always gets to me. Callum can't even enjoy his birthday because his birthday marks the day that Rayla left him and never came back. Where do I even begin with this point? Get over it, it's been 2 years. Let me tell you something. Rayla was in the wrong for what she did, right? And I get it, a breakup hurts, especially if it's through letter, text in the modern day. But at this point in season 4, you're the High Mage of Catalyst. Why don't you go breed some Catalysian bitch? Or is it Catolish? Calotishai? Catol? Catolino? A girl from Catalyst, like the big-breasted ones, right? Why don't you go chat her up? Surely that is a better use of your testosterone than dwelling on a girl that left you 2 years ago. But no, Callum insists on acting like a victim, so much so that he can't even enjoy his birthday with people who do love him and who would never leave him for the world. But I guess Callum knows nothing about loyalty, but we need to climb a mountain and a half before we start talking about season 7. An episode later, Rayla returns to Catalyst and Callum ignores her completely. Good man, Callum. He initially focuses on the mirror because he's pissed off understandably and does not want to talk to Rayla. But then he's instantly swayed by an aggressive Stella and a consoling Bates to hear her out. Now, to give credit where credit is due, Callum acts a lot more mature here than he does in other moments where there's tension between Raylan. Not that there are many to begin with. Aaron, why did you even bother breaking him up to begin with? But that's a different discussion for a different day. Here's where my problem lies though, and I'm specifically talking to the gentleman watching this video. Lads, if your girl breaks up with you and then 2 years later she comes running back, what do you think she may have been doing during that time? Who do you think she may have met, and what intentions could this person have when talking to your gal? I'm not going to spell it out to you, you know what I'm talking about. There's a very good reason why me and my boys refer to any girl who's broken our hearts as... Who? Who? Because deep down, I know that that attachment is still there. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not about to be emotionally manipulated by some gal the way that Callum is in this scene. No matter who's telling me to give this witch a second chance. It's like Araco TV would say. Fellas, if a woman comes back to you after breaking up abruptly, don't air her out, just leave her where she belongs.
She belongs to the streets.
Even outside of his relationship with Rayla, Callum is a weak human being. How are you so easily controlled by Aravos after one dark magic spell? That reminds me of some guy who acted drunk after drinking one beer, and it turns out that beer was non-alcoholic. Do you understand how much of a lightweight situation that is? Well, I basically described our main character. For perspective, Claudia and Viren, who are more corrupt to the core than a piece of moldy bread, still never unwillingly got controlled by Aravos. Okay, hang on, I forget that season 5 happens, but mostly never got controlled by Aravos, right? And Callum is out here getting controlled by one spell. Make that make sense. And before one wimp tells me, oh, but I'm too sick to do that voice.
Oh, but Sammy, Callum was the first human to learn primal magic. That's got to count for something.
Well, let's break it down, because no, it doesn't. First and foremost, it is explained that humans can't learn primal magic. So right off the bat, Callum learning primal magic and being the only person to do so without any explanation is textbook chosen one character trope. Second of all, surprise, surprise, he doesn't earn it in the slightest. Let's break it down even more. Did Callum spend seasons interacting with the magic, learning all of its intricacies, and then we get an emotional payoff where he's connected to the arcanums? Or did it just come out of his arse at a convenient point in the plot? Look, sometimes you do need to make shortcuts for the plots. This is why I'm not super harsh for season 2 in how he connected to the Sky Arcanum. He needed to do dark magic in order to connect, but he also rejected that life altogether, which is something that is admirable. And I'll even concede the point that he at least wanted to connect to the Arcanum. Does that make sense? He was committed enough to risk his life shocking himself to connect, and he did have some experience using a Primal Stone. So fine, Season 2 is not as much of a problem. Season 5, however, there's no excuses. That is bullshit. Callum just pulls out ocean magic from his behind to beat Finnegrin. There's no real foundation, no setup, no real understanding of the magic, other than some vague mentions of runes that Callum knows about. But is that really enough that I can just sit here and say, yes, he really understands how it works? I really don't think so, and that's my point. Callum doesn't earn his powers the same way that other characters in the show earn them, and even other characters in fiction in general. That archetype of character has to go through more of a journey to get to Callum's strength or equivalent, right? Oh, what do you know that literally the only thing that could save Callum from that situation of Finnegrin is ocean magic, and he can just do it. Like, Callum does not work to earn his powers, and I can't respect a character like that. So no, Callum being the first human to learn primal magic doesn't change my mind about him being a soy boy. If anything, it reinforces my belief, because it's just handed to him at the most convenient of times. Right, back to Raylan. The next meaningful interaction happens in the Drakewood, where Rayla suggests looking for an entrance to Umber Tor. She asks Callum to be by her side, which Callum refuses and asks Soren to take his place. Now, credit where credit is due. Callum is still pissed off and he needs space. It's good to see our main character stick up for himself and set up clear boundaries between him and his girl. And it gets even better because he has a mature conversation with his brother Ezran. He prioritizes the mission, being Aravos and his concerns about the Star-Touch elf, but when the conversation turns to Rayla, he's like, yeah, I want to forgive her, but I'm still very hurt with what she has done. Which is a very sensible approach. It shows that he's emotionally invested to Rayla, but he's starting to think with the head above his shoulders rather than the one between his legs. So this is all good progress and it shows his growth, right? Wrong. Because the next time Callum talks to Rayla, he asks her if she could kill him if he were ever possessed by Aravos. Now you might be thinking that this is a Chad play, that he's putting his mission at hand over the relationship and even over his own life, but hold on, let's unpack that real quick. Callum is asking the girl who broke his heart to do him the ultimate favour of sacrificing him for the greater good, who, by the way, never actually apologised for her actions. Are you seriously going to trust someone like that, Callum? Do you honestly think that Rayla, when you're there, controlled by Erebos, do you really think she's going to kill you? Remember, this is the same girl who wouldn't fucking tell Callum about what was bothering her for so long in Through the Moon, and who ditched you for 2 years. Like, what game are we playing here, Callum? Like, you're making me stutter through with my words, mate. And you did it again. Like, what are we doing here? And forget about Callum. What does Rayla do in response to this very vulnerable moment? She honks his nose. She honks his nose. Callum is here spilling out his deepest, darkest feelings and a favour which is potentially world-changing. And she's honking his nose, dismissing his insecurities as mere child's play. Like, Callum, stop being such a beta male and putting up with this nonsense. You know what I mean? It's crystal clear here that Rayla doesn't respect Callum's vulnerabilities. She doesn't trust him. She doesn't really take him seriously. Not that you should ever be vulnerable and show weakness in front of your woman, but that is a different debate for a different day. And yet Callum is just there and will be for the rest of this arc, like, love me please, Rayla. Like, and we're not done with season 4. I got more to complain about. The season finale delivers a dramatic escape from Umbertor after our heroes see the Archdragon Rex Igneous. It is at this point that the gang realize that Viren is alive, and to that I want to say, now it matters that Viren is alive. Back in Through the Moon, sure, the team had better priorities than a conjecture that Viren is alive, but now that we're trying to stop Erebos from being released, Viren is a really real threat and actually worth pursuing. And you know what? The more the merrier. Who's to say how much stronger Viren and Claudia have gotten over the past 2 years, right? Surely you would want as many of your allies going after them as possible. But what is the first thing that Rayla suggests? I have to go after him. And Callum, being the beta male that he is just like, yeah, Rayla, I get it. Go chase after Viren again. Like, seriously, what do you want me to say first? Like, do we call out Rayla for putting herself first again? Should we laugh at Callum for showing no authority and letting his bitch run off for a second time? Do we highlight that Rayla clearly doesn't trust Callum enough to aid in the mission of capturing Viren the villain, when it's actually necessary to progressing the plot? No, I'm asking you, viewer, what do you want me to call out first? It's absolutely no wonder that this season is the lowest rated amongst the community. But trust me when I say this, season 5 is a catalyst in making sure that I put out this video. Just want to say for the record that this video was an absolute blast to make. However, I fear for my life talking about season 5 because it is my least favorite season of all the 7 seasons that were released by Aaron Ehas. So guys, to help me out and make sure I don't lose 1,000 quid in therapy after I finish recording, if you've enjoyed this video for even 30 seconds, please consider dropping this video a like. It costs you absolutely nothing. And even if you hate my guts, the worst thing that can happen is you leave a like on this video, more people see it, and they also hate the video, so it's more of you guys against me. Right, let's get to season 5.
But I do know what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Season 5 opens with Rayla breaking into Callum's office. Oh god, we're starting with this point, are we? Season 5 opens with Rayla breaking into Callum's office to see if Runan's daggers are still there, without his permission or his consent. She gets caught by Opelli, who arrests her, and when Callum finds out, he immediately asks for Opelli to pardon Rayla, claiming he trusts her unconditionally and respects her boundaries. For fuck's sakes, Callum, this is not what Harrow meant when he said Destiny is a book you write yourself. At least the omni-liberal has the excuse of saying that the internet is trolling that little cuck. You're the High Mage of Katalis. You're supposed to be the leader of your people, and you're bending over backwards to excuse Rayla's behavior. And I say this as the biggest Opeli hater, right? She has been advising the royal family, your ancestors, for longer than you have been alive, right? And she did the right thing of punishing Rayla, who has been causing trouble on her second day back at Katolis. And what are you doing? You excuse it because her boundaries, her trust. What about yours? You're the High Mage of Katolis, right? You're supposed to be a beacon of knowledge, power, and leadership. And yet you can't even keep your fling on a string. Callum, you're making me talk to you in the second person and you're a fictional character. And it gets worse, right? My points get worse. Callum and Rayla end up going to Luxoria, but on the way they have a few soy boy discussions. I'm gonna hold my hands up first and foremost and say that this scene is nowhere near as bad as I made it out to be. Sure, it's a complete nothing conversation, but at least you can say that Callum is learning a bit about elf culture, and through it, we learn a bit about Moonshadow elf culture and how it differs from humans. But just hear me out. Think about how much better this scene would have been had Callum simply said, "Did you use the South Star to help navigate you on your quest?" And then bang! Think about the conflicts that could have caused. They could bitch and moan about each other and talk about what's been on their mind for the last 2 years. They could have some conflicts. They could repair through this conflict. But no, this stargazing scene is really forced because of this happy-go energy. I love Rayla and Rayla loves me, despite that my moral compass is telling me that this is a toxic relationship, and Callum refusing to pattern his girl. But don't you worry, because next season there's gonna be another stargazing scene. Why are the Dragon Prince ratings dropping, everyone? Aaron, I don't get it, mate. If I'm ever caught lacking after making this video. Taking a break from Raylan, they are forbidden to visit Luxoria by Queen Janai, so they make the executive decision to ignore this completely. Yes, that's exactly what I'm after. Assertive Callum. Too bad this scene is completely ruined because Janai immediately goes back on her word, but this is something. I like to see this. I'm not complaining about Callum. What is worth complaining about is their interaction in the Great Bookery. Rayla goes up to Callum after getting verbally obliterated by Aunt Amaya, who, by the way, doesn't even speak. She just communicates through sign language. And Rayla opens up to Callum about the cursed coins that Claudia gave to her at Umbertor. She acknowledges that she shouldn't have kept it secret from Callum, and she realizes that this has caused a further divide between them, which, let's be real, is fucking empty words. Do you think that she would be having this conversation had Aunt Amaya not told her off a scene prior? Would she fuck?
Oh, but Sammy G, some people need to have it spelled out for them that they did something wrong. That's the only way they can acknowledge their mistakes.
Would she fuck? She is only doing it because she was told off by Aunt Amaya. And that looks bad on both of them. It looks bad on Rayla because it shows a lack of empathy and that she's a walking red flag and that she belongs to the streets again. And it looks back on Callum because it means that Callum is not mature enough to have the conversation with his girlfriend. Mashallah, what has this video become? Second of all, Callum goes back into the bookery and puts everyone's lives at risk because he needs a piece of paper containing the spells required to free Runan from the coin. Now here's the thing. Callum should have photographic memory. He is the same person who can look at a rune once and know what it means, and who understands flashbacks frame perfectly. And yet you can't remember 3 simple things. Starscraper, Quasar Diamonds, Amor Stella Vitae. Bang, I didn't even need to look at my screen, I just know it. Now it's one thing to put everyone at risk over this side quest, but it's another when you can't even recite magic when it matters most, which is your job, Callum. So that is very beta male mentality. Our heroes go to see Archmage Akiyu, where there's an underwater section in her cave. Rayla has been told not once, not twice that she does not like water, so Callum reassures her, holds her hand and guides her underneath the seabed. This is a really cool moment from Callum. It shows that even in their time of need, he's there to back his allies, even when they don't deserve it. What? Callum is a soy boy, but I'm not heartless enough to not praise wholesome interactions like this. In the episode Sea Legs, our heroes reunite with the character Nyx from Brixton, South London, where she proceeds to call Callum a beta mage. A baby mage. Callum makes the impulsive decision to prove her wrong by using the Aspero spell, which nearly blows away one of the ship's sails, one of the 3 glowtoads that Ezran stole, and that really annoying parrot. Callum, is your dick so small that somebody pressing you, who you don't even like, about your magic skills, can send you into a panic? It reminds me about those 6'2" meatheads who think that they can beat me up just because I'm so skinny. But bruv, look at these medals over here. Where do you think they come from, big boy? They ain't from the spelling bee. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is just to point out in this video, I don't care. I don't need to measure my schlong against their micropeens. In the same way that Callum doesn't need to prove himself to Nyx. We already know she's right. I get it. Sometimes pride is on the line and you need to prove yourself and prove your worth. But to compromise a mission because you want to win someone on a war of words. Come on, Callum. Focus, mate. The next episode, Finnegrin's Wake, is one I want to talk about because it brings up both the best and the worst out of Callum. It starts off great. Finnegrin asks Callum to recite the dark magic spell that killed Avizandum, as he plans to do the same to the Archdragon Domina Profundis. Callum refuses. Chad move. He gets captured, beaten up, and he's still standing his ground. Finally, we see Callum showing some backbone and sticking to his morals and values. All good stuff, right? While in the next scene, Finnegrin asks whose hand should he chop off for stealing his stuff. And Callum just stays silent. Even something as corny as "take my hand, power of friendship" would have done better in this situation. Callum is all bark, no bite. He talks a big game, I learn all the runes, and yet in crucial situations, he freezes up. Excuse the pun. Oh, but Sammy, did you not see that punch that he landed on Finnegrin? Oh, why did he land that punch? Oh, that's right, because Finnegrin was hurting Rayla. Speaking of Finnegrin hurting Rayla, he threatens to use her as bait to catch the Leviathan, right? And Callum, in this moment of desperation, reveals the dark magic spell used to kill Avizandum. So Callum is willing to risk an entire Zadian ecosystem just because of some gyal. Like, Callum is willing to screw up the Ocean Arcanum just to save a girl who, once again, has caused him nothing but trouble and who hasn't earned his loyalty. Like, and do you know what the worst part about this situation is? That Finnegrin has to spell it out for him. Finnegrin literally points out that once he sees that the elf girl is in trouble, he loses his mind. This is a terrible position to be in. You never want to reveal what your plans are. You never want to be read like this by an enemy, let alone giving them the satisfaction of knowing that they pissed you off. Then Callum uses dark magic to save the day, which, I mean, I'll give him this. It's a stoic decision. He's putting aside his moral compass and making the hard call to sacrifice his values for the greater good. Sometimes progress requires morally great decisions, but here's the problem. He doesn't own it. He doesn't take responsibility. He doesn't embrace it. He's just like, what have I done? Look, if you're going to do something morally wrong for what you believe is a better future, own it. Be like, yeah, I did that. I know I've kind of opened a can of worms, but I know the risks. I know how evil dark magic is, and I still did it. Whatever. It is what it is. I knew the risks when I started to cross that line, and I did it anyway. But don't you worry, there's plenty more where that comes from. Wrapping up season 5, Ezra and Callum face off against Claudia underneath the sea of the cast out, and Claudia is absolutely wrecking them. But what happens? Rayla comes in and saves the day, and it's not even a challenge for Rayla. Do you see why this is a problem? It's once again textbook bad writing that undermines Callum's character. Rather than having this like puzzle of a battle and making it so that he has to use wits, strategy to win and save the day, no, Rayla just has to bail him out, which makes Callum look weak and pathetic in comparison. And again, in context with the rest of this video, it's starting to add up. But what I find most humorous is you just know that in the writing room, Aaron, Justin, and Justin were thinking to themselves, everybody hates Rayla right now. But this is the moment where they all come back to her side. Sure, she's been a hoe for the last season, but this is the moment where everything goes full circle. And yet the community's unanimous reaction was how bad they felt for Claudia. They sympathized more for Claudia than they opened up to Rayla. I mean, that just summarizes how out of touch season 5 was to the community. Screw season 5. Season 6 is my favorite in the Dragon Print. From Viren's backstory about his family to his tragic yet satisfying redemption arc, to hyping up a setup for the finale. This season is absolute cinema, but it's no thanks to RMC Callum, who has a few beta mishaps along the way. The Drag Gang return back to Catullus, and Callum is obviously flustered that the Startouch elf could potentially control him again. A valid concern, right? Later that night, Callum sleepwalks and wakes up holding the prison of Aravos, which means it's likely that he is being controlled by him. Though, I'm willing to cut Callum some slack because of 2 reasons. Number 1, even though it's never happened to any other Dark Mage, Callum snaps out of it. And number 2, he immediately sets up a plan to make sure it never happens again. So it clearly shows that Callum is growing as a character because he's learning from his mistakes, right? Well, one of the key phases of this plan is to swap Aravos's prison for a fake. And how does he do that miraculous plan? He does it without supervision. Rayla literally offers to help him out, and he just goes on his ones. Do I need to explain to you guys why this is a bitch move? Is he so prideful and fearful that he needs to prove something? Is this just youth stupidity? Does he get off at the idea of Aravos controlling him? Like, Callum, is there something you want to admit to us, mate? It's 2025. We don't judge. Fellas, I'm genuinely asking. Leave me a comment down below. Why would Callum idiotically put himself in such a vulnerable position again? And I sound like a broken record when I say this, but this is one of the more alpha plays that he does compared to the points I have remaining in this video. Next up is episode 3, which I think is the best episode of the entire series if you're strictly looking at the romantic narratives. Having said that, I could make an entire video on Callum based on this episode alone because, oh my goodness, I just want to slap his face not once, not twice because of how he acts. To set the scene, Callum and Rayla are on their way to the Star Scraper in order to learn more about Aravos and about Startouch elves. But it's quite far away, so on the journey, they take a pit stop to the frozen ship. Where do I even begin? Callum lost all his sleeping equipment, so Rayla offers to share half of her blankets to Callum so he doesn't freeze to death overnight. Callum rejects Rayla's offer, but he acts really soy about it. Like, guys, if you reject going to bed with a girl, do it with your chest. You know what I mean? Be assertive, set those boundaries, and give her absolutely zero doubts in her mind that you are suppressing feelings. Because trust me, women are very good at picking that stuff up. And also, if you do want to join her, own that as well. There's nothing wrong with that desire, especially if she puts it on the table for you. If anything, you could have a cute little moment. You could be saying something like, baby girl, I don't think it's the blanket that will be keeping me warm. And then bang, you have a cute, flirty interaction that's respectful, but also shows that you're attracted to her. But the way Callum is approaching it, he's playing both sides. He clearly wants to join Rayla under the blanket, but he's too much of a sissy to just accept the offer. And to double down on this point, right, he starts shivering to death. And Rayla's like, nah, you're coming under the blanket with me. He's like, nah, I'm actually warm. Like, come on, bruv. This video is not okay. I don't know why I'm still doing this. They wake up the next morning facing each other and are about to go for a kiss, but then Callum pulls out at the last second to admit to Rayla that he did dark magic again. There's a lot to unpack about this discussion. Rayla is understandably very mad at Callum because dark magic makes him vulnerable and she thinks it's wrong. But then Callum immediately goes all defeatist and he's like, yeah, I did dark magic, I'm fucked, there's no recovery for me. Excuse me, how pathetic are you? There's a difference between showing vulnerability to the lady that you love. No, we are not having that debate today. And then there's just showing her you don't care anymore. Listen, I'm not against the whole it is what it is mentality. Sometimes stuff happens, you gotta move on, no point dwelling on it. But giving up in front of your missus? Who fucking raised you? Get up, dust yourself off, get back in the game. Shit happens. And it's even okay to be a bit down and in a rut. You know what I mean? A good girl will motivate you when times are tough. Does that make sense? Like a lot of billionaires, successful people, athletes, they all say that there's one good woman in their life, whether it's their mum or their wives, who they couldn't have done it without. Okay? But the fact that you're gonna cower in front of another man's daughter. Callum justifies that he did dark magic in order to save the drag gang from Finnegrin, and also states that he would do anything for Rayla. Two things. First and foremost, lads, never tell your girl that you would do anything for her. Trust me, she is going to test that conjecture, and it's a massive catch-22. Sometimes she's going to tell you to do stuff that she doesn't want you to do. But here's the thing. You already said you'd do anything for her. So what are you doing? Are you doing something you don't want her to do? Or are you going back on your word, you liar? Just believe me when I tell you that women will respect you more if you never say, I'll do anything for you. You can think it, sure, but never outright admit it. Second of all, and repeating to my points from earlier, if you make a morally grey decision that you believe is for the greater good, either confess it and own that decision 100%, or don't tell your partner at all, because chances are they won't fully understand. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I did a bad thing, a probably morally wrong thing. Go watch my video on dark magic if you haven't. And then be like, yeah, I did it for you, you're welcome. Yeah, I was cheating on you, but I was thinking about you the whole time. He's such a soy boy, I don't even care. Sure, we the audience think Rayla is a bit harsh on Callum here, and that Callum was right to use dark magic in season 5, but let me give you some perspective. Rayla's upbringing was to think that humans are evil fundamentally, and dark magic is a non-negotiable, right? It's just too wrong to even be discussed. Remember how Rayla reacted in season 2 when Callum had to use dark magic to free Pyra from her chains, despite the fact that it was Rayla's idea to free the dragon. I am so glad I got to use that argument in this video, because I had to listen to some of you waffle on Discord about how Rayla did nothing wrong in the 2-year time skip, because that's how Moon Shadow Elf culture works. I am so glad I get to put that argument back into your face. Let's go! Rayla tells Callum Rayla tells Callum that if he's ever finds himself in a situation that he has to choose between her and the greater good, do the right thing. This is a fundamental principle in the book The Way of the Superior Man by David Dida, chapter 7, your purpose must come before your relationship. Your mission should be a priority over getting hoes, because guess what? If your mission is on track, you get more bitches. Who would have thought? One of the most hurtful things you can do to your man is insult his masculinity, and we all know that this is true. So the fact that Rayla is telling Callum to behave more like a man is one of the most beta things I've ever heard in my entire life. Let's not get it twisted. Rayla should be helping Callum improve as a man, not lay the fucking foundations. Bruv, even Rayla thinks Callum is a soy boy. Even Rayla, bruv, I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this for years, guys. For perspective, in this very same episode, Terry and Claudia have a silent montage where the former is bathing the latter after a series of unfortunate events. Terry is emotionally supporting Claudia in a way that demonstrates strength, responsibility, and decisiveness. He's making her prosthetic legs, taking care of her emotionally, all without saying a flaming word. Hell, even in previous seasons, Terry was quick to call out Claudia on her bullshit, and will do later. Trust me, we will talk about season 7. We're nearly there. My main point is this. How is a character in Terry, who used to be a woman, acting more like a man than the High Mage of Catullus? And you know what insults my intelligence? You know what insults my existence? Even more than this. This whole Frozen Ship episode makes Callum out to be a warrior compared to what I have left to say. This video is so stupid. They reach the Star Scraper and complete some quest where the reward is Quasar Diamonds. This is a required ingredient to free Rayla's parents and Runan from the cursed coins. Rayla did not know that these were the rewards. Callum hid that from her because, according to Callum, Rayla doesn't do anything for herself. This is straight cap. Here are all the examples I can be bothered to list of Rayla doing stuff for herself. Not telling Ezra and Callum about the binding in season 1. Freeing Pyra despite the fact that humans retaliated against the dragon for destroying their village. Choosing to stay with Zubeia and defend her just because of parents' guilt. Running away for 2 years. Expecting everything will go back to normal with Callum and still not apologizing. Still choosing to pursue Viren during the escape of Umbertor. Sneaking into Callum's office. The fact that Callum knows that all of this has happened and still chooses to lie to Rayla's face about his motivations is just delusional. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying you should call out your partner's flaws all the time. If anything, they should have flaws. And then you should work around them and they should work around your flaws so that you grow as a couple and form this bond known as love. As I stand right now, I pity the woman foolish enough to marry me, and I guarantee you she will probably be thinking the same thing. But you should be aware of your partner's bad habits. You don't need to lie to them. Instead of lying to Rayla in this example, because this is a heavy moment, it would be awful to just be truthful and direct. Just say something along the lines of, I know how much this means to you. Something corny like that. It's true. But you know what ruins this scene even more? The fact that Callum apologizes that he didn't tell Rayla sooner. You just organized a trip of a lifetime, a wonderful quest with your girl. You know what I mean? You risked your life, you had some fun, and now you own the rarest jewels in all of Zadia in her possession. And what do? You say sorry. You've just shown me, Callum, you don't respect yourself. So fuck you for that. The episode ends with Cosmo being time blind, and he tells Callum that his heart is full of darkness. Keep in mind that this man has only done 2 dark magic spells. That's it. If anything, 1 dark magic spell, but twice. And yet, in spite of that, a Sigma mage like Cosmo can't help but be infected by the soy energy that Callum emits. But don't worry, Cosmo says that he will look after Aravos' prison and teach our young mage a method to cleanse his tainted heart, to which Callum agrees. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You're going to have to trust me on this one because this is just unbelievable, right? Are you ready? That's not Aravos' prison, it's the fake. I know, guys, I did not see that coming. Cosmo keeps this to himself, however, because using his Sigma time-bending abilities, he sees an alternate reality where Callum is too much of a pussy to go through with the heart-cleansing treatment, right? Because he's feeling sorry for himself that he mixed the two prisons around. Even in an alternate reality, Callum is still a beta male. I'm so sorry for going so hard, and further apologies for repeating a previous point. I detest defeatists, okay? Why would you just throw the towel just because you made one mistake? Acknowledge you screwed up and move on. Work with the hand you've been dealt. Learn from your mistakes so that it doesn't happen again. But Callum never learns from his mistakes. That's why I've made a 40+ minute video exposing this little wanker. To cleanse his heart, Callum must see his one deep truth, which is some long, complicated ritual. It's 3 AM, go look it up yourself, right? Brace yourself for the most disgusting, pathetic thing you've ever heard in your entire life, okay? Callum's one deep truth is Rayla. This show is telling me that his core purpose is being a Rayla simp. Axolotl, the voice actress I hired to play Rayla in Dragon Prince Recapped, doesn't like swearing. I have no fucking problem in using vulgar language if it means calling out this cunt. How much of a talentless hack are you that your one deep truth is love? How are you supposed to love another human being properly if you yourself are living a life that profile is not to your needs? Okay? How are you supposed to lead another human being when you can't stand on your 2 feet? I'm sorry, I don't believe that Rayla is Callum's one deep truth. Because how on earth are you telling me that this is the path of enlightenment towards the light when this relationship has been the core focus of season 4, 5, and 6? Okay, that was a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Around the dinner table, we've had some discussions about life goals, motivations, and all that good stuff. Whenever it turns to my dad, he doesn't necessarily say that it's us, but it's the act of providing. Does that make sense? Of course. My dad loves me. He loves all of us. He's our dad, right? But it's the act of providing, the act of doing the work that is fulfilling to him. And I'm truly, truly grateful for that. There's a difference between having a core purpose that brings you the external love, and then there's having the purpose be the external love. Callum obviously fits the latter. He just sees cute elf go brrr, and oh, I'm back to the light. It's embarrassing. And that kiss scene at the end of the episode is more forced than Keir Starmer trying to relate to the British public. Some of you cried at that scene. Shame on you, you're more soy than he is! Bridging the gap between seasons 6 and 7, Callum frees Runan from the cursed coins, who, I need to remind you, is the same man who killed King Harrow, Callum's stepfather. Callum, how are you so okay with freeing a man like this? I mean, is there any inner struggle? Is there any mixed feelings towards this decision? Or do you just think happy wife, happy life, and then you just go against your moral compass yet again? This is the thing with Callum. He doesn't think these things through. He doesn't reflect on the weight of a decision. He just does it because it makes Rayla happy. But whatever, surely in season 7 there could be some conflict between him and Runan, which could make for some very interesting dialogue. Well, there is tension, but it's between Runan and Ezran, who I believe is the MVP of season 7. Not saying much because season 7 was arse, but Ezran was the best character. He arrests Runan, and that causes tension between him and Rayla. Rayla tells Callum that she's going to try and break Runan out of prison. Now, fair play to Callum. He does a good job at being a middleman here. He tells Rayla to hold back until he talks to Ezran, and he actually convinces his younger brother to moderate success about forgiving Runan. This is the type of balls and leadership that we've been missing from our main protagonist this entire arc, isn't it? Well, think again. Because Rayla tries to break out Runan anyway, going against Callum's orders and going against the King of Katalis. So what does Callum do when it's time for Rayla to get caught and face the consequences for her actions, for being treasonous to the human kingdom Katalis, for a murderer of their king? He betrays his own brother. He betrays his brother. How much of a beta cuck are you that you're gonna go against your own flesh and blood for this gal who's caused nothing but problems for you? Not your wife, not a nice looking lady, just this girl, this elf girl, for her murderous father. You betray your own brother. I know women with their gossipy nature and all that have less worthy men in their lives, like the friend they met 8 months ago, and they wouldn't dare go against them, right? Women! Am I such a bad person for hating this relationship? Like, guys, am I such a bad... You fuckwits! Some of you defended this back in Through the Moon, only for this to be a relevant plot point. Betray your brother. Again, not for his wife, not for his greater good, for this dumb sket who's caused nothing but problems, and without an ounce of an apology. No, that scene from season 6 doesn't count, and you know it doesn't. I think I'm done with this video. Like, what more do I add? He was acting very soy in the Silver Grove when those children said that Callum wants 10 kids, and he was giving a funny reaction. He did dark magic again, showing no discipline, gave into the dark side. He gave a long speech to Aravos, didn't do anything that he said he would. His hair turned white after a third dark magic spell, his soy, beta, brittle mod body. I'm stuttering. Betrayed your brother. Betrayed your brother. There's gonna be 2 sets of people watching this video, right? There's gonna be one set that's like, finally someone said it. I told everyone Callum is a bad character, and finally someone actually has the guts to say it. And then there's gonna be a second part that's like, you're taking it out of context. I don't like the language used. I'm offended. Like, tell me how else you, like, what have I left out? Tell me what language you would use then. I asked ChatGPT to give me an alternative word rather than calling him a soy boy. Couldn't do it. I deleted my response, but couldn't give me another response other than a beta male soy boy. Callum is a soy boy. Like, betrayed his brother. You know what I mean? I'm waffling. I gotta wrap this up. Thanks for watching. Give us the saga. We got the saga. You know what I mean? They got the saga back in 2020. The San Diego Comic Con Zoom call is on the Dragon Prince YouTube channel. They had 4 seasons. 4 seasons in advance, right? And then they got 3 more. That's a saga. And then they butchered the ending and they're like, nah, it's not enough. Like, do you need a saga? Like, you got the saga, Aaron. Right, yeah. In conclusion, Callum is a soy boy, and he has been for all of Arc 2. Have a fantastic new year, everybody.